In today's meta, FaZe reigns supreme. Because of the fact that FaZe does not have the order affinity, people have been trying to find ways to counter her. One of the potential counters is Aurora, the Ice Queen, because FaZe cannot get Purity Sensor that relies on other heroes to get it for her team. Unfortunately, Purity Sensor, not a common option for a lot of Order offlaners or any other Order heroes on the map. This makes Aurora quite viable in today's meta, and that is why I'm building this deck. This deck and guide here is meant to be anti-FaZe. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a hero deck and guide. I am Sylphin. So we are doing my version 40.5 meta deck for Aurora, Queen of the North. This is the offlane deck that has early game damage transitioning into a utility tank. Kind of a burst caster utility tank kind of a thing. So Aurora here, the Centurion, because late game you need that health to be a tank to sustain in the front line. That's why we get that. In the early game, start off with a health potion and healer token, and you also have another healer token available to you if you need it. The Sage's ward here gives you a good, or the Guardian's ward here, a little typo there, gives you health. 2 CP of health, but still good damage. Then you go into the Elder Mage Amulet, some health, because you just kind of jump in there and you need that health and some damage as well. Incessant Onslaught is a really cool idea for Aurora. Her ultimate at level 1 is fairly long, so you can just basic attack in lane with Thunder Cleaver to push back that off lane and get some good pressure on the map. People trying to deal with a split-pushing Aurora is actually pretty terrifying because of her ultimate, which we'll talk about later. The combo of these can give you great pushing power in the offlane, but also have your ultimate ready for pretty much any engagement. In the mid-game, you go into a Teleblink, Thick Blood, and then an upgraded ward here on your Guardian's ward with a whole bunch of health, starting that transition into tankiness. In the late game, you go for Barrier of Will or Tempered Plate, Thermobond or Tuned Barrier, and a Tainted Magic. You upgrade all of the damage last, focusing on that tankiness. The optional cards here, Stasis Gem instead of a Teleblink. If you don't necessarily need that Teleblink to get into position, you can get that Stasis Gem because the enemy team will probably be pretty terrified of you and want to burst you down. Tuned Barrier instead of Thermobond if there are little stuns, roots, and knockups. The Tempered Plate instead of the Barrier of Will if that support doesn't have a shield. An extra healer token for the early game, like we said. Now, as Aurora in the offlane, I always start with my offlane heroes getting this one white camp. It gives me just enough CP to get that extra healer token a little bit early. I really like that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I really just like that. I haven't done the math yet on how much you lose and gain, etc., etc. Now, Aurora is pretty awesome, and her first ability that I get that helps get that white camp there is called Hoarfrost. Aurora creates a ring of Hoarfrost on the ground around her. Touching the ring deals ability damage and applies a root. The ability damage 75 to 225 with power scaling at 0.6. It can hurt. As you can see there, you want to use it to get some good damage and kind of prevent that lane wave from getting to your tower, just to kind of help clear this wave. She can be a good offlaner that can hold back the push. Now, the root duration is 0.75 seconds all the way up to 1.5 seconds when you upgrade it. The ring duration stays there for 4 seconds so that if anybody runs into it, they get rooted and take damage. The mana cost, not too much. She's a fighter though, so you gotta be careful. And the cooldown is 14 seconds. This is a very powerful ability. It is also kind of tricky to use, to be honest with you. Because it takes a moment for her to cast it, and it isn't necessarily the largest ring, you actually have to be at least beside the hero running in the same direction in order for you to catch the enemy hero in the ring. You cannot be beside them or even around here. If we're running this way, if we're running up, you have to be at least beside them or in front of them in order to catch them in your Hoarfrost. It's a bit tricky to use. It just takes time, especially getting used to how far the ring is outside of you to catch a minion wave or to catch the jungle camps. It takes some practice. Don't worry about it. You will get used to it. The next ability that I get here in the off lane, especially against a Revenant or a Phase, is called Frozen Simulacrum. Really tough word to pronounce properly. I think I'm pronouncing it properly. Simulacrum? Simulacrum? Simulacrum. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Weird word. For Aurora leaps in the direction she is moving. So you can, if you're pressing to the left, to strafe left, you jump to the left. If you're pressing backwards, you jump backwards. Whichever way you are moving, you can do that. I used it there because it's a very, very interesting ability. You leave behind an icy statue of herself. The replica will draw aggro from enemy minions and towers and stays in the world for 7 seconds. The duration, 7 seconds. Mana cost, very small at 45. The cooldown is 16 to 10 seconds in the late game with a range of 700. So you leap 700 units of range. You can use it to catch up to somebody, but they can't be very far. They can't be very far at all. What this does, though, is for Revenant's Obliterate, if you can anticipate it and use it before he uses his Obliterate, all of his Obliterate projectiles will go onto the Frozen Simulacrum. You have to use it before. If he presses his button and then you press your button, all of the projectiles have locked onto you and will still go onto you. So you have to kind of project it. You can dodge Richter hooks, you can dodge Decker stasis bombs, you can dodge Twin Blast grenades, lots of things. You can if you're really hot on it, you can dodge Murdoch snipes, etc., etc. Now the second ability that you actually saw me use there before her ultimate is called Glacial Charge. What happens is Aurora dashes forward, leaving behind her a trail of ice that other heroes can walk on. She deals ability damage to any enemies she dashes through. The damage, not much, you don't really use it for that. 40 to 160, power scan of 0.35, don't really use it for that, but the mana cost is 80. Now, the range, though, increases from 1,200 units at level 1 to 1,500 units at level 4, and the cooldown is 22 to 16 seconds. You can use this to close the gap between you and an enemy or escape. Aurora is very elusive, and you can just kind of get all over the place and dodge people and really juke people out with Aurora's Glacial Charge and her Frozen Simulacrum. Now, Glacial Charge, another really important thing is that it traverses terrain. You can use it to create a wall between things. So if I was to, for example, Glacial Charge off that gold ledge, I would actually create a wall that goes from the ledge upwards. So you can actually traverse terrain. You can create walls. You can create geometry. If I was to go from one of these ledges here, and Glacial Charge to the other ledge, it would actually create a wall the height of these two ledges. It's very, very cool. Now, what you can do is you can create walls in the jungle to stop enemies from retreating. You can use it to cut people in half, to create walls in between people. You can do a whole bunch of things. It's really cool. Your creativity determines how useful this Glacial Charge is. So really, it's up to you to do really cool things with it. I'm not that creative with it. I use it to engage and disengage. That's pretty much about it. I accidentally upgraded it twice. It's not too bad. It increases the range and increases the damage and reduce the cooldown. But preferably, I would upgrade Hoarfrost simply because that stun duration increase is really important, and that is what you really want it to do. When you upgrade your Frozen Simulacrum, it only decreases the cooldown, so I would really focus on upgrading the Hoarfrost, followed by the Glacial Charge. Now, you can see here we got 2 healer tokens for that sustain and our ward. You just need the ward. I just used her ultimate, and boy, is it nuts in combination with a Gideon, with a Steel, with a Decker, with a Howitzer, with a Gadget, any other AoE abilities. It's absolutely insane. It's called Kairoseism. Aurora freezes an area, applying a max movement speed slow to all enemies for 2 seconds. After a few seconds, the ice on the enemies explodes, stunning the target and causing ability damage in a small AoE around each target. Now, something you have to balance with Aurora is, do you use your Glacial Charge to engage or disengage? At this point, we're on a tower, so I don't really kind of want to just walk through a tower and do it. I use my Glacial Charge to get my ultimate on the Phase and the Revenant. This gives all of those, the stun, the very first stun during the explosion, and then the micro stuns on the following explosions for my ultimate, give our team the opportunity to take down the Revenant. We have the advantage now. Usually you guys should be able to secure 1 kill at least when you use Aurora and her kit. That then therefore provides you the advantage to go and win the rest of the team fight. Here you can see I went into the Elder Mage Amulet. I need that damage and that health, because obviously you can really commit to a fight, use your kit, and then get out with the health that you have. One tip when you are trying to clear these waves, make sure that you preempt the wave and make sure that when they're walking in a line towards, like, down the minion wave, use your Hoarfrost, and then so that they all, like, all of the melee minions and the range minions run into your Hoarfrost. Don't try to, you know, when the minion waves are trying to fight each other, don't try to use it then. Just take a little bit of time, go up from the minion waves, use it so that all of the enemy minion waves kind of run into it, and then you have some pretty good wave clear. Now, this is pretty overkill, but the principle is the same. I use my Teleblink that we get now to save my Glacial Charge so that we can survive. I use my ultimate on the minion wave and on the Aurora, and as you can see, she gets completely obliterated. That is what I want to do. I want to use my kit on the Aurora, or on the Phase and the rest of their team, obviously, preferably with some minions around, to just kind of take her out. Ridiculous Revenant nonsense with a dumb Obliterate gets me there. But as you can see, working quite well. I already have the Thick Blood here because that is basically damage. If you can reduce the health that you would have otherwise had to have power and damage to get rid of, it's basically damage. People kind of don't think about it that way, but it is. So anytime this Phase is going to use her Quenching Scales or her Cast Converter, that is damage that I am basically doing on her and her teammates. So I'm trying to be as helpful to my team as possible, because Aurora, she does a lot of damage, period. So here is another example of me coming in, trying to do my thing. I get a 2-person ultimate. I thought the Revenant was closer here, but look at how I just focus down this Phase. The Murdoch uses his ultimate as well. I get him down. My ult was applied on the Klong. He'll definitely work with his lifesteal. And see what I try to do here. I try to make a wall between my Revenant and my Murdoch, sensing that my Murdoch was losing that engagement. But that still provides my team the opportunity to get a 4 for 2. Get in there, do my thing, apply my already high damage kit on the enemy team, with some great utility there with the Thick Blood. I couldn't use my Teleblink because that Bellica hurt me before I got in there to save my Glacial Charge, but it ended up working anyways, and there you go. So I'm building a little bit of damage here on the Thick Blood. I'm feeling confident at this point because I've gotten my Guardian's Ward with a whole bunch of health. I need that health for that sustain, as the Revenant's doing pretty good. He's kind of manhandling me a bit, so I will go into this ward here for the health, as health far superior to armor in this early part of the match. only hero level 12. So here's an engagement that goes okay. I don't get the best ultimate off, but it still works. So Gideon and me, I get a 2-person ult, but the phase actually gets a good pull on the Chimera. Again, my Thick Blood's really going to help with the healing that she gets, but this Thermobond is really going to go to town. While I still die, the enemy team has 4 stuns or roots. Stun for the Chimera, stun for the Bellica, root for the Kwang, and root for the Phase. This Thermobond's going to get tremendous value when we start adding in some armor. Armor is coming very shortly here. I was feeling fairly confident. We got the Stasis Gem and the Teleblink. I was feeling like I didn't need that Tempered Plate or Barrier of Will just yet. But right now, I'm like, okay, yeah, I need it. So you pick Aurora because you want to counter the enemy team's composition and affinities. Here we see a fantastic Deckerfen's Gideon ult, and my ult to just layer on the damage, the crowd control, and the utility. My Thick Blood prevents the Quenching Scales from having value, prevents the Phase from getting really good value from her kit, natural kit. The Stasis Gem I chose to keep instead of the Teleblink. So I wasn't finding I had too much trouble getting into position. The Tempered Plate is now fully online, so I am tanky as all hell. The Thermobond gives me the sustain from abilities, and this Tainted Magic will get applied to everybody that my ultimate touches. Every explosion will proc it, and that is tremendous value. That is far superior than any power I would equip in its stead. This will get tremendous value against tanks, even more so, and even bruisers. Absolutely tremendous value here for Tainted Magic on Aurora. If your ult and combo doesn't kill them, well, Revenant, this Tainted Magic is gonna have a tremendous amount of value. So I love it. A lot of value in this Tainted Magic. The Stasis Gem for you to really dive in there and just kind of boop. There's the 2.5 seconds of invulnerability when the enemy team's like, this Aurora's doing stuff. Nope. Stasis Gem. There you go. Health on the Guardian's Ward. Ability armor here on the Thermobond that I'd yet to upgrade. The Tainted Magic for tremendous value. Tempered Plate or the Tuned Barrier if your team doesn't have a shield. If your phase, for example, doesn't have a Barrier of Will, you can get it here. The Tempered Plate instead, and the Thick Blood for the great utility that I wasn't finished upgrading on the power department. Tremendous, great damage, but also great utility, also great tankiness. Love this deck. Let me know down in the comments, guys, what you guys think of this Aurora deck. How is Aurora in today's meta against this phase and whatnot and Revenant nonsense? The Revenant can actually take off your ultimate, the debuff, the explosions, by going into the Nether Realm. I think that's pretty dumb, but he can counter that, but that does force his ultimate out. So there is that. What do you guys think of Aurora? I love this. I've been loving playing her against the whole phase Revenant Morigesh meta, because they just don't stand a chance when they group up and you just convert your kit. Kaboom. Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community, and of course, guys, subscribe. If you guys like this content, especially if you found it useful, please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. If you would like to support me and what I do on a regular basis, please consider going over to my Patreon account, where you can make a monthly pledge to support what I do and reap some pretty good rewards. Till next time, like always, guys, stay optimistic and positive.